Hi everybody, Russ and the West Ham Network. Hope you are all safe and well. If you're new around here, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share, give it a bloody good subscribe. Why don't you? Why don't you? Happy weekend. Hope you're well. It's my birthday tomorrow. I imagine the cards are already arriving. The postmen are warming up to take those big mail bags full of my presents to the front door. We'll see what happens anyway. 21 again, plus VAT and a little bit more. Anyway, we had there's the reason for this video is twofold. It's twofold. Obviously, we had the news on Thursday about our brand new sporting director. Technically, not until January, but our new sporting director. Obviously, made over 550 appearances for the club. And then is come back in a sort of a more upstairs capacity, which is fantastic. And then also we had a My Hammers 11 with Don Hutchinson, which I implore you to go and watch. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch it. It was absolutely brilliant. And we're going to get Don back on very, very shortly. But he got me thinking. He got me thinking about players who have left and been re-signed by West Ham, and how many players that is, and you know, whether I could put an 11 together, for example. I like my 11s, and that's what we've done today. So we put together, so we've got 11 players who have signed for West Ham twice. And then we talk about the managers and stuff as well. So it's a bit of fun, something a bit different as well, something a bit different. So let's start off between the sticks. Between the sticks, I've gone with this man. Shaka bloody Hislop. He's a first year at West Ham. He made an impressive impression. He won Hammer of the Year. He was first choice goalkeeper. Then he had an injury, but he bounced back and got some good performance in. Glenn Roeder released him, who wanted to bring in David James instead. And then he rejoined in 2005 as backup keeper. Didn't see much first team Premier League action, but he played every game of the 2006 FA Cup, leading to the final, in which obviously Steven Gerrard narrowly won, not Liverpool. So I thought, great, let's get Shaka between the sticks. So Shaka is between the sticks. We're going to play three at the back. So we've gone for George McCartney. God old George, love him. He played for, obviously, apart from playing for, he's actually a boomerang player for more than one club. He played, obviously, for West Ham, but also for Sunderland as well. Which was quite interesting. So he could be in Sunderland's boomerang team as well. Started at Sunderland, Mr. Consistency, great performances. West Ham signed him in 2006. Once they sold Conch to Fulham, good run in the team. Then they sold him back to Sunderland in 2008, only for us to sign him again in 2011. Originally on loan and then making the sort of the loan deal permanently. So in essence, three times really, if you count, because he had to technically go back for his loan spell and then come back again on a permanent deal. But George McCartney is number two. Number three has to be Julian Dix. Obviously, we spoke about him quite a lot with Don Hutchinson. Don roomed with him at Liverpool, and obviously very friendly with him during his spells at West Ham as well. Cult hero, obviously was at West Ham. Then made his move to Liverpool in '93. Graham Souness signed him because he wanted to sort of toughen up that Liverpool side. And then Souness was eventually replaced by Roy Evans, who didn't see eye to eye with Julian. He fell out of favour, struggled to get a game at all. And then Harry basically re-signed him. And if you go back and listen to our interview with Julian, he talks about the option of Tottenham coming in for him, and he basically said, F off to that one. But Harry came in, and he wasn't fit. He had one leg, but ended up making over 300 appearances for West Ham in two spells. So Julian is in to complete this sort of back three. We've got the Ginger Pele himself. He joined West Ham in a deal in 2005 alongside Danny Gabardon. He had an injury which kept him out of almost the whole. Actually, it was the whole of 2008 season. Eventually sold to Aston Villa. He had great spells in their first team alongside Richard Dunn. Came back after falling out of Villa. I think he got fined a couple of weeks' wages for a drunken incident, and then was signed again by West Ham to fix our defensive problems. Came back with no hair and a beard, but we don't care. It's shoot with James Collins, and obviously 9 seasons in total. Was it 9 seasons in total? 10? Yes, yeah, it was 9 seasons in total at the club, and a modern day cult hero in all honesty. But that's our goalkeeper. That's our back three. We're going four in midfield. So let's start with Lee Bowyer. Sort of scrabbling around for the fourth player to be Bowyer. When he signed for the first time, it was a lot of fans frowned. They weren't best pleased. That was around sort of 2001. Trying to strengthen the team, basically on the verge of relegation. Didn't work. We didn't stay up, and he left 6 months later. His second stint, around sort of 2006, a bit more successful. Some good performances, some important goals, and that XL, that was the run of the patch era, wasn't it? But we'll put Lee Bowyer in that midfield alongside Don. We spoke about Don's time at West Ham quite a lot. Signed by Harry from Liverpool in '94 for at what time was a club record of 1.5 million. Scored in his debut against Newcastle. By his own admissions, maybe it was a bit, maybe he enjoyed the booze a little bit too much for his time, but it was a bit of a drinking culture, particularly at West Ham, but within football at that time. He ended up leaving to join Sheffield United a year and a half later. But then back in 2001, Glenn Roeder, at the time we spoke about Glenn, God rest his soul, and Don's dad. Thanks to Leon for prompting us to talk about that. An amazing story about Glenn Roeder. Listen to it, go back. It's an incredible story. Just real West Ham-y story, in all honesty. That sort of West Ham community spirit. But Glenn re-signed him again for another club record, £5 million from Sunderland, and we go into a lot of detail about that move because it wasn't as easy as maybe the Liverpool move, to be honest, for him, because he had family issues, his mum wasn't well, and just money as well. I mean, he was on practically nothing at Everton and stuff. It was ridiculous, in all honesty. But broke it. So twice he broke the transfer record at West Ham. Didn't. Second spell wasn't as impactful, I'd suggest. He did his ACL, struggled to get back into the first team, much to his frustration. He wanted to pay Glenn Roeder back for showing him faith and showing him sort of humility when it came to his dad who was passing. But honestly, go back and check it out. It's a great one of my favourite interviews ever. And we've had over 100 on the channel, but it was absolutely brilliant. Hutch is in. Who's next? Joey Cole. Had to be Joe Cole. He made Don Hutchinson's Mimer's 11 as well. Spoiler alert. Obviously, one of the most famous names to leave when we got relegated in '03. He obviously left to Chelsea. Once a disappointing spell, obviously fell out of favour at Chelsea, disappointing spell at Liverpool. He came back and we welcomed him back. The prodigal son returned with open arms. He had some good performances. I remember some good goals coming back. Maybe not the impact that we thought he was going to be, but it was, towards the end of his career, in all honesty. He was released later that year. But he thought he had some unfinished business to attend at West Ham, and you could see he definitely put that last effort in. West Ham boy at heart. And to complete the midfield, Yoshi Benayoun. Man has an age. Look at that. Apart from his haircut. Yoshi, lovely bloke. Signed for West Ham in '05 and was brilliant. His first season. Scored 5 goals, 8 assists. Moved to Liverpool in 2007. Again, some similar performances and similar levels. Lost his first team place at Liverpool. Ended up moving to Chelsea. Didn't hold a place there at all. He went on loan to Arsenal as well. And then returned to West Ham once more. But unfortunately, He had an injury, I think it was against Newcastle, I want to think, and ended his second chance with the Hammers after just 6 games, unfortunately. But a phenomenal player, and I believe, isn't he the only player or the first player to have scored a hat trick in the Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup? And there's some sort of stat about Yoshi Benu in scoring. I think it's a hat trick in all those competitions. But yeah, Yoshi's he's in our that sort of midfield four. We'll put Joe on one wing, Yoshi in the other wing. We'll have Hutch and Bowyer in the middle. Not a bad midfield. Not bad midfield in there, Pomp. Let's go up front. Let's start with TC. Got to start with TC. Number 9. Born in Forest Gate. Began his obviously career at West Ham. Scored in his first team debut against Spurs. Prolific spell, that first spell, including being voted PFA Young Player of the Year in '86. His partnership with McAvenny that season was legendary, as you know, scoring a combined 46 goals in the '85-'86 season. He moved to Everton, which at the time made him the most expensive player to be signed by a British club. 6 years later, Harry Kane called him back. We spoke to TC when we interviewed him about that sort of, he always... Obviously, he came back and was booed and stuff, and then there was the Bobby Moore passing, and then the Premier League Select 11, and he got a massive cheer when he was announced, and that sort of started the cogs going back, in terms of going back to West Ham. And as I said, Harry came calling back eventually 6 years later from moving, and TC back for a second spell where he stayed for a couple of seasons before moving to Leicester City, and then moving to Thailand, I think, or something like that. I believe so. So TC's the number 9. So the number 9, you've got to put the number 10 in. McAvenny. It's one leads the other, isn't it? They're almost combined. You say them at the same time. McAvenny made his move to England from Scotland. Signed in '85 in his first season. Obviously helped us to the highest ever league position. Obviously his position changed. Paul Goddard got injured and he moved from more sort of a middle 10 role to up front alongside TC. Then second spell not so successful. Went back to Scotland, signing for a club record at Celtic. He broke another record as West Ham's most expensive signing when he came back for the second time. We paid him £1.25 million in 1989. Moving back to London to be close to his girlfriend at the time. And yeah, the two of them just reel off, doesn't it? It's Cotty and McAvenny. And finally, the 11th person. Can we all guess? A bit like Joe Cole, he always believes in his soul. Colton bloody Cole. One of West Ham's obviously played a lot of games for West Ham in his entirety. Released in 2013 after joining in 2006. He never really showed his true potential, in all honesty. Famously, he took a 50% pay cut to stay at the club when he could. And after failing to find a new club, West Ham failing to find a new striker, we re-signed him just a few months later after his contract got, he asked to take, he was happy to take a pay cut and didn't work out. So we brought him back, and obviously he scored the goal, which took first goal in that championship playoff in 2012. Against Blackpool, and it'll always be, and obviously he's still associated with the club, he's still in the coaching staff, and very much a modern day cult hero. So that's the 11. So that is the 11. Notable mention, some others. We've got some bench players. Darren Randolph, the current West Ham third choice goalkeeper. Obviously, originally he was with Adrian, vying for that first team spot a few seasons ago, back at the old girl, before coming back and re-signing for the club. Steve Jones, 2 spells at the club. Harry bringing him back from Bournemouth for a second spell. Callum Davenport, we had him on loan for a couple of months before his contract was terminated by Tottenham, I believe, and we re-signed him a little while later. Paul Konjeski's a bit of a what's the word? I wanted to keep Conch in there because technically he did sign for the club twice, but once when he was a schoolboy, and he didn't make the grade. Up going to Charlton and eventually coming back to West Ham to play for the first team. Sebastian Schemmel was a bit of a cheeky one. I put a few cheeky ones in there because he was on loan and then we made the deal permanently, so he had to sort of leave to come back. Same as Andy Carroll, he left and come back. I'm just filling up the bench really. And same with Carl Jenkinson, 2 loan spells with the club in successive seasons, but he had to go and come back, so we sort of re-signed him. There we go. Managers, amazing when you look at the manager. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but in terms of who'd manage his side, I mean, John Lyle would manage the side. Obviously, John Lyle retired as a player, came back and was manager for many years. Billy Bonds, famously, obviously, our most appearances ever for West Ham player. Came back and was manager. Harry Redknapp, obviously, following him. Trevor Brooking being a caretaker manager on a couple of occasions. Alan Kirbishley playing for West Ham as a player and coming back as a manager. Same as Slaven Bilic. Then there's the coaching staffs like the likes of Julian Dix, obviously as Slav's first team coach. Kevin Nolan, Stuart Pearce. So many players, and obviously that's not including our new sporting director, as we said at the beginning of the show, our new sporting director, Mr. Mark Noble, coming back from playing 150 appearances, 18 seasons as a first team player, 26-year man and boy, I believe he said in his statement, and coming back to being our sporting director, not officially, not until the beginning of January. Anyway, something a bit different. I hope you enjoyed it. If I missed anyone out, I've bound to miss people out. Maybe even the older eras, in all honesty. Let me know in the comments if I've missed anyone out. Who would be yours? Who's your favourite boomerang player? Let me know in the comments below. Who's the player you loved who went and came back? Is it Julian? Is it Cotty? Is it Colton Cole? Is it Lee Bowyer? And on that bombshell, I will bid you a great rest of the weekend. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, stay warm, stay healthy, stay cheeky, stay dry. The weather's turned, isn't it? Weather's turned. As always, we'd like to thank all of our channel members, but today we're going to thank all our channel sponsors as well. So take care. Bye-bye.